Hey, what's up guys? This is Jeff with Gamestork, and it looks like Level 5 is working on Switch game or games?
Gamestork, delivering news, reviews, and playthroughs like a newborn baby.
So Level 5 is working on games, or a game, it's kind of confusing at this point, for Nintendo's March release Switch hardware. The company president and CEO Akihiro Hino said to NEkkei Trendy interview published today. Here's the excerpt I'm going to read. Nintendo Switch, which you can play as both a stationary system and as a portable machine, was released in March. Hino says, "I think Switch is good. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is extremely fun. It's almost dangerous," and he laughs. Actually, playing with Switch myself, my impression of the system has changed a lot from when it was still in development. I was hesitant about its play both inside and outside style, but I feel like there is a considerable potential here. Anyway, Zelda is a lot of fun, so I personally carry it around and play it as much as I can, even on airplanes. The model that Nintendo gave me is the one with the red and blue color controllers, so when I carried it around a lot, the looks I got made me self-conscious. I bought the black controller that they released myself and attached it, and he laughed again. I think the style of Switch is a wonderful fit for competitive games you can play if you're gathered in real life as well as online. For example, I think the fact that the game lovers within a company can get together and play Mario Kart is really fascinating and interesting. And while I can't say the content quite yet, we're working on a game or games that support Switch. Okay, so first of all, let's look at that. The way that that's stated, and if that's properly translated, which we know that the Japanese language, after taking a few semesters of Japanese in college myself, it can be a little bit vague, and it doesn't always translate over exactly as we would think that it would. He says he's working on games that support Switch, not working on a specific Switch game. So that means games that are already in development. They've decided to put one of those games on the Nintendo Switch, if this is the correct wording to what he's trying to say. So with that, let's look at a couple of the games that's their vision, I guess you would say, for 2017. So first, let's start with the familiar. Lady Layton, the Millionaire Ariadone's Conspiracies, latest in the Professor Layton series of puzzle games. It features Catriel Cat Layton as the lead character for the first time, as opposed to the Professor himself, with the game shifting from problem solving to solving mystery cases as a whole. Now this game, as of right now, is coming to the 3DS, the iOS, and the Android, and is set for a release in the spring of 2017 in Japan, and over in the West later in the year. Now, I don't know if this is the game because of the push to mobile. It would be really neat to see a Professor Layton game on the Nintendo Switch, but I just don't know if this one would be the one that'd be ported. There's also a new game in their popular football RPG series called Inazuma 11 Ares, which, despite being the 7th game in the series, takes place after the very first game in the Parallel World story. This is out in Japan shortly after the new anime series in summer 2017, and Western release sometime thereafter, so this is a possibility too. Now, in my heart of hearts, I'm hoping for something different, but you know, you never know. Level 5's 4th and 5th cross-media projects are the Snack World and Megaton Musashi. The Snack World is an odd one with a blend of classic fantasy and modern conveniences like vending machines and cafes. That series is going on iOS and Android in April, I believe, alongside a new anime with a Japanese 3DS release in 2017. Megaton Musashi, meanwhile, blends robots with school mysteries, telling the story from multiple points of view across the different forms of media. There's no release date announced for this game, but fluent Japanese speakers can check out the pilot episodes here, or you can just watch them just to see what it's all about if you don't understand it. So the same can be said of the rest of the lineup that Level 5 had at the event. Now, Otome Hero Yokai Watch for smartphones. Really, there's quite a few Yokai Watch games they're working on. Fantasy Life 2, Twin Moons, and the Sacred Village were announced. And out of all the games listed, the Fantasy Life 2 is actually the one that I would prefer on the Nintendo Switch. The reason being, the first Fantasy Life for the Nintendo 3DS, if you have not played this game, you have done yourself a disservice, period. Like, Fantasy Life is one of the best games that have come out on the Nintendo 3DS, and it's actually one of the best games that I have played in the past few years, and that's saying a lot. Like, this thing ate up at least 200 hours of my time, and it is fantastic. So, of all of these that are listed, or should I say aforementioned, before I mention the big one that you might want to hear, Fantasy Life, please, Fantasy Life on the Nintendo Switch, pretty please, Level 5, bring it. Bring us Twin Moons and the Sacred Village right here to the Nintendo Switch. But there's no plans for release outside of Japan for those yet. Now, my question on this, I wonder if it's a Yokai Watch game coming to the Nintendo Switch. I wouldn't necessarily be super upset about that. I think that might be fun. But the big one that I want, and I'm sure that you guys are aware of, you know, you're probably thinking this as you're watching this video, is Ni No Kuni, right? That's what you're thinking. Ni No Kuni 2, what about that? Or the first Ni No Kuni. And yeah, I say bring those over to the Nintendo Switch. I absolutely want to see it. I think that would be great. The only problem is that it looks like Ni No Kuni 2 might be a PlayStation exclusive at this point. Although we don't really know. I mean, there's no solid information, I guess you would say, on the licensing there. So at this point, anything's possible, but it's really neat to know that Level 5 is working on something for the Nintendo Switch. I love seeing all these developers getting sold out on the console, because it's the same thing that happened to me. I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, you know, this is going to be really great. And then I had my doubts, and once I held it in my hands, I understood completely, you know. And I actually did the opposite of what he did on my Switch. I bought the version with the gray controllers, the Joy-Cons, and then I bought a pack that had the red and blue Joy-Cons separately, so I would have both. But, you know, to each his own. And now I have, you know, gray and blue, or red and gray, or two grays, or, you know, whatever. Lots of fun. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for watching. This hopefully has been informative for you. Maybe there's some really good stuff to look forward to with Level 5 working on a game that will be compatible with the Nintendo Switch. If you haven't subscribed, please do so if you like what you're watching, so that you can be first in line here at Gamestork to hear all the great news about the great games coming to the Nintendo Switch. I certainly appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.